Welcome back to Talking Hoosier Baseball. We are a podcast brought to you by the iubase.com website for people wanting more information about the Indiana University baseball program. Today is February 20th, 2019. I am Chris Feeney. I'm here with the stat guru, Cassidy Palmer, the king of the RPI and the king of the video edit, Carl James, as well as the creator of iubase.com and the ultimate road trip driver, Josh Bennett. So if this is your first episode or your 29th episode, welcome back or welcome to your first. We're glad to have you aboard. Believe it or not, it really is the 29th episode of Talking Hoosier Baseball. And it's fitting that it's the Ryan Feynman episode because Cass, me, and Josh just got back from Memphis and the ribs were outstanding. I'm telling you, the people there were great. The food was even better. We even got a win, opening day win. Paulie Milto on the mound. Hoosiers took game 1 6-1. Game 2, not as good. The bats took a little bit too long to wake up. Tanner Gordon threw 4 good innings, gave up the 1 run. Let's see, Cole Barr with the big home run in the 9th, but it was a little bit too late. Lost game 2. Game 3, Tommy Summer was outstanding. 6 innings, no runs. Plenty of hits late. We had the Gorski home run early to win game 3. Plenty of Hoosiers had multi-hit games over the weekend, including Gorski, Matt Lloyd, Logan Calatha, Drew Ashley, and Jeremy Houston. Now, we've been waiting to say this since early July, but it is time for the Hoosier highlights. Cass, what's your Hoosier highlight from the weekend?
For the games for me, I definitely have to go with Gorski's home run to lead off game 3. After a bit of a rough game 2, that really helped to set the tone for the last game. I also just loved getting to see and meet people down there. A lot of the parents and families I hadn't had the opportunity to meet since I'm a couple of states over. So the trip itself was just really nice. Like you said, lots of fantastic food. So it was a great weekend all around. Josh, what were your highlights this weekend?
Well, like you and Chris alluded to, we had a nice road trip to Memphis, ate some excellent food, and it was great to get to hang out and talk baseball with friends, both old and new. My Hoosier highlight for week 1 is going to be pitching, and more pitching. We got exactly what we've come to expect from the Bulldog in game 1, and also a pretty good D1 debut from Tanner Gordon in game 2. But I was really impressed with what Chris mentioned for game 3. Tommy, and what was his first start as a part of the weekend rotation, tossed 7 innings of shutout baseball. He even worked himself out of a 2-on, no-out situation in the 4th after giving up back-to-back hits to start the inning. Last season, it seemed like we were constantly juggling the rotation. Some of that was due to injury, of course, but if we can get Sunday figured out early, that would be a big deal, in my opinion. As a whole, the starters went 17 innings, 17 strikeouts, and only gave up 2 walks and 1 earned run. Those are just excellent numbers. As far as the relievers went, Connor Manus threw 3 innings over the weekend, closing out the 9th in game 1, and then throwing 2 innings on the finale on Sunday. He faced 11 batters and recorded 9 outs. And then also Bloomington native Alex Franklin was able to get his first work in as a Hoosier, finishing off game 2 with an easy 1-2-3 inning that included a weak ground ball, bookended by the only 2 strikeouts recorded by the bullpen on the weekend. So I understand that the competition is going to ramp up this week as we visit the SEC, but it's a very encouraging sign out of the gate. So Carl, what's your Hoosier highlight for opening weekend?
For me, I'm going to pull up something from game 3, a specific moment. Part of it is because, unlike you guys, I was not there. I was trying to catch the stream on the first day. When things weren't working well, I just submitted my application for a job with the Memphis PD. Haven't heard back from them yet, but we'll see. So I would say, for me, it was actually an interesting moment. It was Justin Walker's bunt in game 3. We've been a lot of speculating as to what kind of strategy this team is going to have. My dad was texting me, are they going to bunt here? Surely they're going to bunt here. And I was just being very incompetent saying, no, they're not going to bunt. I don't think Mercer's going to give away an out right here. As it turns out, I was right on one of those points. but not the other. And in the end, it led to some runs, which was awesome. So at this point now, we get to, for the first time in 2019, we get to give out our awards. Chris, who gets this week's red belts?
All right. Thanks, Carl. First off, I didn't see a red belt break. I don't believe we had a broken red belt the entire series. I was shocked. Maybe the cold weather condenses the belts. I'm not really sure. It was definitely cold. That was a rough doubleheader weather-wise, especially the beginning of game 2. That was some weather, I'll tell you. But red belts are here to be given out. The first red belt, we're going to go with Sam Crail for the Tony Butler Award for that play out in left field. He has to come in the game after sitting the first, 4.5 innings, replaces Elijah Dunham. Milto gets a K, and then Crail has to make that athletic catch down the left field line. Really special catch. Definitely red belt worthy. As far as the Joey Donato Award red belt, I got to tell you, this was closer than I thought. I thought Paulie Milto had this thing locked up after Saturday, but he does win it. But I'm not going to mention, the rest of who was close and stuff like that. I know we have some other plans for that, but it was a lot closer than I thought. Paulie was amazing. Okay, 7 shutout innings. I have the stats here. Just the 2 hits, no runs, no walks. Now, if you add that on to the Texas Southern game, his last 16 innings, 17 strikeouts, just 2 walks. He's only given up 6 singles, and no one has gotten to third base. No one even got to second base on opening day against Memphis. He's really, really been great. So Paulie Milto gets the first red belt of the season, which he did last year as well for pitching. So I guess he's making it a tradition. The opening weekend red belt, or Limo had last year for Paulie Milto. Now, this one was much closer than even the pitching award. But for the Alex Dickerson Award, I'm going to go with Logan Calatha. His consistency over the weekend really got it for him. Okay, I got his numbers here. 4 RBIs, 4 hits, a run scored. He got hits in every game. He really, he was smart at the plate. He was able to get the sacrifice fly to right when we needed it. Driving runs in with less than 2 outs. Calatha really made it happen all weekend long. And we needed it because, there was that drought in game 2 when, I'm not exactly sure what happened, but I guess it was just the style of pitching or whatever the case might have been. Lots of strikeouts, but Calatha really made it happen all weekend. He gets the first Alex Dickerson red belt of 2019. So that's going to be Paulie Milto, Sam Crail, and Logan Calatha for week 1. Now that you have the awards, I know everyone agrees with me, so this section will be kind of short. But just in case there are some disagreements or maybe some add-ons, we'll start with Josh for the alternate belts.
Come on, I would never second guess you, Chris. And even if I did,
I know.
Even if I did, I'd never do it publicly. Of
course not. Not on a pod where everyone could hear, of course.
No. But that said, you completely whiffed on the awards this weekend by missing the most obvious one of all. Last season at the BART, a young man named Thatcher was able to retrieve both Wyatt Cross's and Drew Ashley's first home run as a Hoosier, and then took it down to the field and gave it to them after the game. Well, if you noticed in the 9th inning of Game 2 on Saturday, Cole Bart hit his first home run as a Hoosier. Now, Thatcher didn't make the trip down to Memphis for some reason, but we did have a young lady step up to chase down Cole's home run and deliver it to his mama in the stands. So my red belt award goes to Justin's little sister, Gianna. I'm sure that ball is something they'll cherish and are thrilled to add to Cole's trophy case. So great work, Gianna. Congratulations on your first red belt. So, Cass, your turn. What else did Feeney miss this weekend?
Well, I want to give a shout out to Jason Mott for recommending some phenomenal restaurants over the weekend. I think all of them were home run restaurants. That was pretty phenomenal. And I know you guys didn't try out Hog and Hominy on Sunday, but that place was great for brunch. So, Carl, what additions to red belts do you have?
Well, As they said, I didn't get the experiences that you guys got, but I did get to watch Game 3, and the stream was actually rather good on Game 3. But even better, was, as you mentioned before, the starting pitching, and that was quite a special performance by Tommy Summer, and definitely looking forward to seeing what he can do in the weekend rotation as the year progresses.
You've got mail.
Oh, wow. Oh, okay. That's right. Mailbag. We've got our mailbag this week. So in the mailbag this week, Keegan asked a 2-part question. So is this what we can expect from the weekend starters all year? And is the middle relief going to be a question mark for pitching this season? Chris, can you take this one?
Okay. Well, first, thanks, Keegan, for sending that in. I believe you sent it in through the Talking Hoosier Baseball Twitter account. Appreciate it. It's great to hear from the fans. It's great to be able to answer some questions. It also is great to have some topics to discuss that people want to hear about. So thanks, Keegan. As far as part one of his question, I mean, to expect 16 out of 17 shutout innings over a weekend is probably a little much, especially when the competition steps up a bit, like this weekend, with the SEC team and stuff like that. But to expect Paulie Milto to be great, I expect that. Tanner Gordon, I think, is going to get even better. He's going to start to be able to go deeper into games. Mercer mentioned it on his media availability. He sat there all day in that cold and then had to take the mound, and it's different, So he did throw to 4 solid innings, 1 run. I'm thinking he'll start to go deeper into games. Tommy Summer surprised me. I'll be the first to say it. I didn't expect 6 zeros from Tommy. It was really impressive. But I don't want to raise the expectations too crazy to expect 16 out of 17 zeros, but some solid, smart pitching with a plan. I do expect that every weekend, to be honest, Keegan. And part two, the middle relief being a weakness, he asked? A question mark. I don't think so at all. I don't. I think that's actually another strength of ours. And we found 2 more pieces, freshman-wise, that we didn't have last year. With Alex Franklin. He pitched well, man. He seemed to really know what he was doing. He was humming it in there. He had a plan as well. Braden Tucker, McCade Brown didn't pitch yet. Michael Dunkelberger didn't pitch yet. They're not going to be starters. That's part of our middle relief. I really think we have a lot of arms in the middle relief where starters don't have to go 7, 8 innings. I really don't think they do. So to be honest, I think the middle relief is a strength of ours. And what happens, over the weekend, those are earning runs. Mistakes happen. It's baseball. But another thing, brought up, it's a baseball game. It happens. It's when you're not pitching with a plan, when you let the moment get too big. These kids are going to come in. They're going to get used to playing in these situations. And again, Friday might get rained out. But come Saturday and Sunday in Tennessee, whoever takes that mound, I expect a pretty good environment. And we'll get to see some more of these arms. I really think our middle relief is going to be a strength of ours. Definitely not a question mark. Now, we have another question. This one is from Jeff. He's actually a member of the Student Athletic Board, and he's in charge of the Crimson Guard student section. And for those who don't know, that's the drum guy and that crew that was out in right field last year, banging the drum, hanging the Ks. They're actually going to move right near the road dugout this year, which I love. A little more home field advantage at the BART. Really like the student section. I could vouch for them. They were there, the 14-inning game in the wind, the one that Houston walked off, they didn't leave. They were always out there. It's just they're very far away, so their effect on the other team wasn't really strong enough. But now they're going to be right in their rear over the dugout, which is great. So Jeff sent in, let's see. The question, and this one's going to be for Josh, is Lloyd going to be the everyday first baseman all year and not play second? And with that, do you guys see Bradley's role changing? Because he would have been playing first from what Jeff, I guess, was thinking. And he really only saw the one start over the weekend as DH. And that's for Josh.
Okay. I'm not going to pretend I can read Coach Mercer's mind. But at this point, I think from what we've seen this weekend, we're probably going to see a whole lot of Matt Lloyd at first base. I know Matt also played quite a bit of third throughout the spring. So I'm going to assume that's probably his secondary position and not second. I will say that I was a bit surprised Matt started all 3 games at first, though. I really thought he'd be DH for the final of the 3 games. it was clear that he was probably going to be called on to close since he hadn't pitched in the previous 2 games. You're going to want to get him work. And coming in to finish off a game when you played the field for 26 innings in about 26 hours is less than ideal in my opinion, especially when you have Scotty as a capable defender. So that move did surprise me, but it's early. They're still feeling things out.
I do think that Matt's position is first, though, if he has to play the field. He seems more comfortable there than second to me.
Then second, yes, but he looked awfully comfortable at third in the fall. I thought he looked really comfortable at third.
Okay, so maybe that's the route they go. Second, I feel like we really need Walker there or Burnell or someone just a little more middle infield comfortable in that situation. I guess we'll see what Coach decides.
Yeah. I mean, basically, Matt's bat is going to be in the lineup every single game.
Better be.
I'm guessing primarily at first and some third and DH from what my gut's telling me. But that said, Scotty's probably going to be looking to get most of his time as a DH for now as the season progresses. If we can't find enough offense at either third or second, like what you were saying, that could change. Lloyd could be moved over to one of those 2 spots, opening up first for Scotty and then letting us get another big bat in as a DH. But we're only 3 games in, so it's hard to look too much into this. I'm sure if a certain guy gets hot at the plate or gets cold in the field, Coach has many options that he can try out. As he said in an interview a few weeks ago, things are probably going to look very different throughout the season. But thanks for the question, Jeff. We hope we can have some better weekend this season, and good luck building up that student section. We'd love it to give us an even greater home field advantage than we seem to already have. So that'll do it for this week's mailbag segment. Remember, you can submit your questions to us via our Twitter account or shoot us an email at gohoosiers@iubase.com. Now we'll pass it over to Cass, who will share with us some of the stats that stood out to her from this opening series in Memphis.
So the first thing that caught my eye was the pitching performance. Over the weekend, the staff had an ERA of just 1.38, and the starters were significantly under that. They also held Memphis to a batting average of just 191, which, it's opening weekend, adrenaline, cold, really, really, really cold. I can vouch for that. But that's still, if you're holding opponents under 200 batting, you're doing something right. So the pitching definitely was a standout of the weekend. On the flip side, the IU offense did not have a significantly higher batting average than Memphis at just 198. But 45% of those hits went for extra bases, which really was a big part of the difference between the 2 teams. I mean, for example, on Sunday alone, IU scored 6 runs on 6 hits. And yes, there were some errors in there, things like that, but IU scored what they got onto base. And that can help minimize the damage of only hitting 198 on the weekend. The big bugaboo, though, those 37 strikeouts, that's a lot. That's a lot by anybody's definition. And again, it was cold. It was a little bit wet. It's the first weekend. Adrenaline is pumping. Strikeouts are going to happen. And if I remember right, last season, the strikeouts were higher opening weekend than they were for the rest of the season as a whole. So I'm not too concerned about that yet. But against a team like Tennessee, who has a better pitching staff to begin with, it's something to keep an eye on.
I even think, though, that the fact that they throw harder might actually help.
That
Josh
might
had brought
too.
up during the game, it was so much slow stuff and the slap stuff, and we just couldn't hit it. Yeah, I feel like the Tennessee arms are going to be in the 90s. We're more used to that from practice.
Yeah, and that's definitely something to keep an eye on. But another thing that could kind of go either way for the Bats, as of now, there's a 100% chance of rain on Friday. And while Tennessee does have a nice, shiny new turf field, that still affects how you're throwing the ball. It affects how you're hitting the ball. Rain is more than likely going to be an issue this weekend. So that's definitely something to watch and see how that influences the play. So, Carl, what else happened in college baseball world over the opening weekend?
Quite a bit, actually. And I have been trying to maintain some of the updates on iubase.com. But I'm going to call out three particular series, two of which were not in my article. So Illinois was very impressive in the weekend. They went 3-0 at the Wake Forest Invitational, including a win against the host, Wake Forest. And also, there was some media from that event that really highlighted that Illinois looked impressive too. It wasn't just the wins; they looked like a really, really solid team. And we got to see them last year. We got to see particularly their middle infielders, who are both fantastic defensive players and good hitters. So Illinois may be a real threat in the Big Ten this year. There's always we had a question this year: is did Nebraska just have an off year, or are they kind of on a downslide? They went to UC Riverside and took 3 out of 4. So that's not a slouch team. So that is a solid start for Nebraska.
I think Nebraska, a lot of it was injuries last year, if I'm correct.
There was a lot of that too. So I just haven't seen Nebraska's name in a lot of the Big Ten preseason, high up on the Big Ten preseason, and maybe that's a mistake. Maybe Nebraska is going to be the real deal this year, and we'll have to kind of look at that.
Illinois was, though, right? Illinois was third, though.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the coaches, they're actually ahead of Indiana. Mm-hmm. And it looks like there may be some impressive. Now, the coaches had Minnesota as number 1. Minnesota went 1-3 in the Sanderson Ford Classic in Surprise, Arizona this weekend. Now, granted, one of those games was against Oregon State, but even still, I mean, the Saturday and Sunday games were absolute blowouts, including Franklin taking his first loss. So, it's baseball. Teams have bad weekends. We remember the Big Ten tournament last year. It can happen. So it's one of those things we want to keep an eye on Minnesota, see how they do over the next few weeks, and try to get an idea of, is this a pattern? I don't know yet. I don't know any of these patterns. It's way too soon to tell, from that perspective. But now we're going to turn our attention from what's happened in college baseball, from what happened in Memphis, and move on over to Knoxville. So, Chris, tell us about the upcoming series against Tennessee.
Good deal. Thanks, Carl. First off, I want to thank our writer, Max Heath. He put together a really good series preview about Tennessee. I'll be going over some of it today. He really did throw together a really nice piece, very detailed. It's up on iubase.com now. Tennessee last year was 29-27. They're from the SEC. Obviously, they were 12-18 in the SEC, and they were 9-5 at home. So they weren't towards the top of the SEC in any way, but to go 9-5 at home in the SEC, and 12 SEC wins, that's solid. A lot of people were saying that Tennessee wasn't, this up and coming team, or we're going to go 6-0 and 5-1. I never really looked at this series as such a pushover series, especially not now. Okay, they've won 4 in a row. They outscored their opponents 29-0. They've thrown 4 straight shutouts so far on the season. So obviously they are confident. They're playing good ball. You know what I mean? And something that Max pointed out, he pointed out a lot. We're just going to go over some of it. The bullpen has been lights out. Okay. Not that the starters weren't good. Obviously it's shutouts, but they only give up 9 hits the entire series, the opening series. And that's 19 innings of work. And this is the opening series, right? Coming out of the gate like that, that's pretty strong to me. No runs, 9 hits. But as far as the weekend, we're going to go game 1 at 4:30. But like Cass said, probably not. Game 2 is scheduled Saturday at 2 o'clock. And then game 3 is at 1 o'clock at Lindsey Nelson Stadium. But really, we're not assuming there to be a game Friday, and then probably a doubleheader Saturday, and Sunday the rubber game. But we'll see. Now, the Friday arm, or Saturday game 1 arm, for Tennessee is Garrett Stallings. He just gave up 1 hit in his 7 innings and got 8 Ks. He's easily 90-91. He was ranked 119th the overall draft prospects by D1. So this guy's a solid arm, a solid SEC arm. On Saturday, or game 2 Saturday, Zach Ligenfelter, he was actually selected in the 19th round by the Washington Nationals, but he decided to come back for his senior year. And sounds like there's some control issues with him, but he does throw hard. Maybe our approach could just be to, make sure we pick a good one type of thing, try to get on base with walks, whatever we have to do. Now, Sunday's a real interesting guy. It's Will Neely, 5'11", only $150, but he tops out at 94 miles an hour. So I'm real interested to see this guy throw. He's, normally 90-91, but he does top out at 94. Now, last year, he did have a 4.09 ERA. So, and he only had, which was surprising, he only had 52 Ks in 83 innings. So it's not that he's not hittable, but it's just such a little guy throwing so hard. It's definitely eye-opening. Now, for the bats to watch for the Volunteers, we have Andre Lipsis, the third baseman. He was basically their best player last year. Okay, he led the team in average with 315, homers with 7, and RBIs with 42. Evan Russell, the left fielder, he had a big weekend. He hit 2 homers, 2 doubles, and last year he had only hit 3 homers the whole year. So he might be firing up for a big season. And another bat to watch is center fielder Jay Charleston. This guy is Ryan Feynman's target. This is Ryan Feynman episode of Talking Hoosier Baseball. We need a big one from Feynman. This guy's a speedster. All right. He already has 4 stolen bases over the weekend. He might have stole a couple more during the midweek game. I'm not even sure. But it sounds like he starts running the minute they get off the bus. So Ryan's got to, and if it's a doubleheader, will Ryan catch both games? Who knows? You might get a Jake Skrine or a Wyatt Cross. We got to throw him out. As far as the situation with watching these games, there is a stream. It's on Watch ESPN, but you have to be a cable subscription for that. Cord cutters, I'm sorry, you can't use it. That's just the way it's set up. But I did talk to the SID at Tennessee. He got back to me right away. It was really, really cool. And he let me know that there's going to be a free play-by-play audio broadcast of the entire series. And when that link is set up, I'm going to send it out over Twitter or, Facebook and all that good stuff. Now, as far as alumni, if you guys are traveling to the game, we got some good alumni at this one. Peyton Manning. A lot of Indiana people know him. He could be at the games. He could be probably in the luxury box, though, I bet. Then we have Bernard King, ex-New York Knicks great. Not a lot of people might know about him. Great New York Knicks basketball player. He's a Volunteer alum. And finally, if you see a guy there with a hat backwards and some sunglasses, Chris Moneymaker, the World Series champion, poker champion of 2003. He actually got on board right when that poker scene was really getting popular, and he won it. And he was just a regular guy that won an entry into the tournament from an online situation. So this is a big series. Now, what happens going forward with the scheduling, that could affect things like Cass said. But we want to focus. Paulie hopefully gets game 1. I don't think it's been announced that Gordon is going 2 and Summers 3, but I'd assume so. I'm sure we'll see that soon. As far as the series, I would love to say get all 3. I would be crazy to say that. We'd want a series win. Okay, we want a road series SEC win. That would be huge coming back. Hopefully we'll get those Bart games in next week. We'll see weather-wise. But to be sitting there, what would that be, 4-2 for the first 6 road games? Thank you very much. I'll take it. Now, that's going to be it, actually, for the episode. So I'm going to have to take a minute. And for Josh Bennett, Cassidy Palmer, and Carl James, I'm going to be letting you know that you can contact us or follow us at iubase.com or on Twitter at iubase17. We also have the Twitter account for Talking Hoosier Baseball, and that's at See You at the Bart. So for us and everybody involved, have a good night and see you at the Bart.
The morning I'll be with her in the golden fields. I'm going back to Indiana now to see my baby in